April 21st, 2025. The time is exactly 4:30 p.m. This is an F-16C Block 50, but it's not just an ordinary F-16. It's a Block 50 Plus modified by the Ukrainian Air Force to hunt down the Russian army. Any moment now, two F-16 engines will fire and take off carrying a total of 3,000 kilograms of bombs. 11 minutes later, 6 JA missiles would lock onto 3,600 tons of Russian ammunition. However, the mission is incredibly challenging. In Belgorod, a Russian S-300 radar was intensely scanning a 300-kilometer area, capturing every detail in its watchful gaze. In a dramatic escalation, the Russians unleashed intense drone strikes targeting Ukrainian artillery and the cities of Sumy and Kharkiv, all originating from Belgorod. Ukrainian Leopard and Bradley tanks were cornered on the border, a tense situation as the stakes rose. Ukrainian air defense units relentlessly pursued Russian drones while artillery stood by to bolster the frontline units within the area. Yet these measures fell short for the defense. The F-16s were already in the air, ready for action. The Russians had no idea the F-16s were fully operational and ready to go. Two tactical F-16 jets, armed with JDAMs, stood poised for action, just waiting for the command to launch from hundreds of kilometers behind the front line. Every second counted. The target lay about 370 kilometers from the Predniprovsk airbase. The F-16s faced a critical race against time, needing to hit their target within a tight 27-minute window. Every second mattered. Even a brief delay could spell disaster for Ukraine's armored convoys. The Russians leaned heavily on the S-300 and various other air defense systems, creating a formidable shield in the skies. But what the Russians failed to anticipate was that the F-16s were also armed with HARM missiles. A GM-88 HARM missile reached astonishing speeds, twice the speed of sound, powered by an advanced dual-reaction solid-fuel rocket engine. These high-speed anti-radar missiles are crafted to pinpoint the location and nature of enemy radar systems, executing precise attacks with remarkable efficiency. In essence, one of the F-16s was set to launch the initial missile from a striking distance of around 150 kilometers, potentially rendering Russian air defense systems such as the S-300 ineffective. Moments later, the second missile would be launched, a calculated move to guarantee pinpoint accuracy. As tensions rose, the Russians prepared a second wave of drone attacks aimed at halting the advance of Ukrainian armored vehicles. Ukrainian intelligence had meticulously analyzed the preparation time between launches, revealing that a group of Iranian-designed Shahed-136 drones was expected to take off between 5:00 p.m. and 6:00 p.m. The ground control stations for these drones were positioned between a repurposed old train station now serving as a munitions depot and a stark concrete command building located 3 kilometers to the north. This dual-threat situation combined the F-16 platform with JDAM munitions, all focused on a single mission. We had to act swiftly to dismantle the Russian military's command and supply hub in Belgorod before the drone swarm launched. Ukrainian forces urgently called for both facilities to be silenced simultaneously. Just moments before the drone swarm began its assault, it all started here, as the F-16s, with their structural advantages, made their way toward the target. Even with just one Pratt & Whitney F-100 PW2229 engine nestled in its fuselage, the Block 50 Plus model astonishingly achieves top speeds approaching Mach 2. With the afterburner roaring to life, it can surge forward to a takeoff thrust of 129 km in just 3 seconds. As the nosewheel left the runway, the aircraft climbed at an astonishing rate of 15,000 feet per minute. Yet this mission, which took the Russians by surprise in Belgorod, was not designed for soaring high in the skies. but rather for achieving incredible speed and surgical effectiveness. As the sun dipped lower, the jets finally touched down on the runway at Prednaprov's airbase, marking a pivotal moment after meticulous preparations. After the taxiing procedure wrapped up, the aircraft surged forward for its brief takeoff run at 4:47 p.m. The thunderous roar of two F-16 jets pierced the air as they launched from the airbase. Each jet was loaded with 3 GBU-32 JDAMs and 1 HARM missile poised beneath its wings, a staggering total of 8 bombs, carrying a net explosive payload of 3,000 kilograms, painted a chilling picture of destruction. The GBU-32 features a robust Belu-110 body, weighing 454 kilograms. This steel-concrete penetrator, paired with its explosive charge, creates a formidable high-penetration warhead ready to tackle the toughest targets in its standard configuration. The bomb normally glides 15 to 17 kilometers, but with the ER wing kit, it can soar up to 28 to 30 kilometers in a glider-like flight. The wing material, made from carbon composite, shows remarkable resistance to friction while offering structural flexibility from the moment of release. Even in extreme temperatures ranging from plus 70 degrees to 45 degrees, when the F-16 releases the bomb, it enters a brief freefall, then gracefully deploys its wings and glides toward the target, locking onto its axis with precision. The F-16s were ready for action, fully equipped and prepared for the operation ahead. Just 30 seconds into the flight, the pilots descended into a nap of the Earth profile, a thrilling, low-level maneuver that brings a rush of adrenaline. The jets flew about 30 meters above the ground, hurtling toward the border at a staggering speed of 800. At that altitude, the radar horizon stretches barely beyond 24 kilometers. Even with an S-300V4 battery activating its search radar, it would still be a tense race for the F-16 to clear the horizon before being detected. The strike aircraft would remain on their side of the border, while the wing-equipped bombs crossed into Russian territory, underlining the precarious nature of the mission. The plan was straightforward: engage the second HARM, and then execute the pop-up toss. With a sudden pop-up, the scene unfolded, the aircraft rose, released energy as the bomb glided through the air, and a dramatic dive followed. The pop-up toss is a breathtaking maneuver. The aircraft briefly rises and launches the weapon, making the aircraft visible on radar for only a fleeting 3 seconds. A timing error could trigger the launch of the incoming missiles, which can reach astonishing speeds in just 4 to 5 seconds. As the JA GPS guidance indicator lit in vivid green on the multifunction display, the pilots instinctively elevated the nose by 45 degrees. It was a moment charged with anticipation and precision as the two jets climbed to 400 meters. The F-16's fly-by-wire systems sprang into action, expertly compensating for the loss of lift during the ascent toward the release point. The long-range release indicator blazed on the HUD, a vivid reminder that the moment had arrived. The pilots took a deep breath and pressed the trigger switch. In a breathtaking instant, the internal pylon bombs were released in just half a second. As the trip shear cables on the JDAMs released, the compressed springs on the tail fins sprang open, creating an intense and awe-inspiring scene. The external pylon bombs detached and fell away into the chaos below. As 6 JDAMs separated from the fuselage, the mini-servo flaps on their tails activated for GPS path correction. The aircraft then transitioned into a glide phase, ascending gently at a 40-degree angle before executing a rapid right-then-left turn and descending to an altitude of 150 meters, its nose now aimed directly at the Ukrainian border. They vanished from the enemy's radar, slipping back into the shadows. In a dramatic turn of events, the first two JDAMs were released mid-flight, zeroing in on the ammunition depot to the south. As the F-16s entered the glide phase, they accelerated to Mach 0.9, the speed at which the wing design achieves its peak lift-to-drag ratio. The depot roof, freshly covered, took the first hit. A JDAM struck at a steep 35-degree angle. The Belu-110 warhead penetrated to the second floor, where a delayed fuse detonated with massive force. Pressure rose inside the confined space until it triggered the launch sequence of nearby Grad rockets. After the first explosion, the depot's central walls were blown outward in a shocking display of destruction. The blast flipped a BMP-2M onto its side, and the Nona mortar mounted atop it was violently torn through the lower plate. The second JDAM, aimed at a fuel tank on the eastern side, veered 17 meters off its intended path, but still struck the tank. 10,000 liters of fuel ignited, sending flames up to an astonishing 40 meters into the sky. The inferno twisted into a red-black haze that enveloped the outpost's perimeter. The remaining JDAM-ERs targeted the concrete command block to the north, breaking through the roof and detonating in the server room in the basement. The blast melted GLONASS and radio cables, sparking a fire from the control panel. Debris collapsed around the site, sealing the only escape route for those trapped inside. The simultaneous explosions disabled the TOM-2 radar truck outside the target zone, cutting its critical uplink. The final two JDAM bombs then struck the UAV Launch Command Center, wiping out its walls and systems in seconds. In just 10 minutes, the F-16s unleashed staggering destruction. 100 Grad rockets, 700 mortar shells, 8 fuel trucks, 7 BMP-2Ms, 6 MTBs, and 2 Nona mortars destroyed. The damage totaled about $29 million in unusable equipment. The cost was high. 6 JDAM-ER kits at $170,000 each, 2 HARMs at $570,000 plus fuel, maintenance, and sortie expenses at $150,000, a total of around $2 million. Yet the cost-benefit ratio reached 1:15, a major gain for Ukraine. The jets returned to Priner Prosk safely. Technical crews found no damage after checks. About 900 kilograms of JP-8 fuel remained. After 3 hours of maintenance, the aircraft were combat-ready once more. For Russian forces, the failure was crushing. The drone swarm never launched. The command center lay in ruins, and supply lines were severed. Ammunition and fuel shortages followed, crippling artillery firepower on the Kharkiv front. Ukraine had proved its ability to strike deep without leaving its own airspace. The F-16 with JDAM-ER extended range and shattered the notion of secure depots. A single 450-kilogram bomb could glide in from 25 kilometers with chilling precision. 8 bombs in a 30-minute flight left behind $29 million in destruction. The small body, big impact concept had become a battlefield reality. A tense silence followed in Belgorod, as Kharkiv and Sumy enjoyed rare, quiet nights. Russian planners now faced hard choices. Range circles had to be redrawn. Command codes went unanswered. Vehicles lay incapacitated. The balance of the war tilted as borders blurred like smoke trails from JDAM strikes. On July 17, 2025, the silence of 4 JDAM bombs over Belgorod marked a pivotal moment in the F-16 era. Fear spread among Russian forces. JDAMs fall without warning. Without sirens, just the tearing of roofs before impact. Radio silence grew. Coordination faltered. Convoys advanced under confusion. The F-16s proved they could immobilize rear lines, threatening not only depots but bridges, transformers, junctions, and radar sites. Russia was forced to mark a 50-kilometer buffer zone as high risk. Every building within it stood vulnerable. BLU-110 bombs pierced 1.2 meters of concrete, detonating with a 0.2-second delay, collapsing ceilings with devastating effect. The operation reshaped logistics and exposed the fragility of Russian supply routes. It was not just destruction on the ground, but a shift in the psychology of war, a new era defined by reach, precision, and fear.